Right, this is from the 9/11 Commission. We have co-chair Lee Hamilton and panelist Richard Ben-Veniste interviewing Major General Larry Arnold and Major General Craig McKinley of NORAD. And let's hear what they have to say regarding what went on September 11, 2001.
I just want to clarify a few things after listening to all this testimony. It's not all that clear to me. As of September 11th, only the president had the authority to order a shoot down of a commercial aircraft?
That's correct, sir.
And today?
Just to also add, the shoot down authority is an order such as this: the President of the United States, the Secretary of Defense, NORAD. Vice President is not involved in the shooting down of civilian aircraft during an act of air piracy, or is known as hijacking.
Who has the authority?
We see the President delegated to the Secretary of Defense, delegated to the Combatant Commander of Northern Command and the North American Aerospace Command, and there are emergencies authorities if that fails.
So you have the authority?
Yes, sir, and others.
And how many others?
I'd prefer not to say in this forum, sir, but I can provide it for the record.
And you do not have to go up the chain of command at all in the event of a
We certainly will try. We will make every effort
I'm
to
sure
try.
you would. But
now think about this, for those conspiracy minded, right? But it is interesting to note. And it's not a conspiracy that the 9/11 Truth Movement will ever entertain, because they don't believe in hijackers of planes. So what to shoot down what? Where was President Bush during the peak of the hijackings? He was on Air Force One. And if you read articles pertaining to Air Force One, especially the one done by Politico, which is the best one, Bush did not have a consistent line to the Presidential Emergency Operations Command Center, the PEOC. Where was Donald Rumsfeld when the Pentagon was hit? He's the Secretary of Defense. Well, he's outside the building. Now, depending on who you ask, whether it's the Department of Defense, whether it's Andrew Card, Secretary, whether it's Condoleezza Rice, the National Security Advisor, whether it's Donald Rumsfeld, Secretary of Defense, whether it's George Bush, the President of the United States, or articles over the years, that the shoot down command authority came down somewhere between the times of 10:15 to 10:30 a.m. And remember, the last plane to crash is Shanksville, and that's at 10:38 a.m. Okay? I think it was 10:38. Thinks, I'm not sure. What was that? We cheat. I believe it is. Don't hold me to it. I mean, I am looking on my phone. 10:03 is way off. So 10:03 a.m. So well after all the planes have crashed. But if anybody's going to give a shoot down command, it would be NORAD, because the president's indisposed, and so is Secretary of Defense when Flight 77 is still in the air and was a potential hijack for over 30 minutes, known to be a potential hijack.
you don't have to.
In an emergency situation, we can take appropriate action. Yes, sir.
Now, one of the things that's curious to me, General Arnold, you said that you did not learn of the presidential order until after the United 93 had already crashed.
Right.
That was about a little after 10 o'clock in the morning. The first notice of difficulty here was at 8:20 in the morning when a transponder goes off on the American flight 11. I don't know how significant that is, but 20 minutes later, you had notification of a possible hijack. So there's a long lapse of time here between the time you are initially alerted and you receive the order that you could shoot that aircraft down. Am I right about that?
That's correct.
In your timeline, why don't you put in there when you were notified?
Hmm?
For which flight, sir?
Well,
You just
I mean,
told me the
getting the
occurrence.
notification from the President of the United States that you have the authority to shoot into commercial aircraft down is a pretty significant event.
Right.
Why would that not be in your timeline?
Good question.
I don't know when that happened.
Had you ever received that kind of a notice before?
Not to my knowledge.
So this was the first time in the history of the country that such an order had ever been given, so far as you know.
Yes, sir. I'm sure there's a log that would tell us that, and I appreciate the question.
Yeah. Maybe you could let us know that. And then finally, as I understand your testimony, it was not possible to shoot down any of these aircraft before they struck. Is that basically correct?
According to Larry Arnold, yes.
That is correct. In fact, the American Airlines 77, if we were to have arrived overhead at that particular point, I don't think that we would have shot that aircraft down.
Because
Well, we had not been given authority to shoot
you
that
didn't have
aircraft.
authority at that point.
But-
And, it is through hindsight that we are certain that this was a coordinated attack upon the United States.
But had you gotten scrambled earlier, notified earlier of 77's deviance about when it turned east, for instance, certainly you could have got the F-16s there, and presumably there would have been time to communicate to either get or be denied authority, no? For 77.
I believe that to be true. I believe that to be true. It had to happen very fast, but I believe that to be true.
What efforts were made that day to contact the president to seek that authority?
I do not know.
Who would have
that's a good
been in
question.
the chain of command seeking authority from the president with whom anyone at NORAD was communicating with?
Can you answer that?
The command director in Cheyenne Mountain is connected with the combatant commander who would have had the telephone lines open at that point, but
And I believe that's Major Larry Nispaney, if I'm correct, regarding him directing defense aircraft. One of them was Huntress. I forgot the other one's name. To try and intercept or locate Flight 11 and 175. But at that time, they had already crashed, unbeknownst to NORAD, because according to NORAD, they got conflicting timelines or weren't told in time by the Federal Aviation Administration regarding the hijacking of 11 and 175. And if you listen to the audio, I have all the audio from FAA on that day, all it downloaded on a hard drive. But you can hear that there's a lack of communication from the FAA and NORAD not really pressing the issue. And of course, again, this is all hindsight too. You have multiple hijackings, which never happened before. And, they weren't prepared for something like this. If you're going to say, well, maybe some of these people have foreknowledge, even if they had, general foreknowledge, they still don't have specifics. And why would you give specifics out to people who are public persons and always in front of a camera where they could slip up? You want that fucking information out there and expect these people to live? No. All right. I think very few people on the face of this earth had specifics, and those people are not in the United States. That's me assuming. So NORAD, I believe, could have intercepted at least 77 and 93. No way for 11-175. But during testimony, I mean, this is the reason why I watch the commissions and the inquiries, because you understand that, not all of it's a lie, or, all these people are in on it. They're not. They just don't have all the information. But NORAD basically says, had they gotten all the relevant information regarding the FAA and the times correctly, the locations and the coordinates, they could have stopped the hijackings. But according to some of them, one of them being Larry Arnold, no, they couldn't have. So, but one thing NORAD didn't do was give a correct timeline of events. And when Commissioner Tim Romer basically said to them, hey, can you give us an updated timeline? NORAD never did.
I don't have knowledge of what happened that day, but that would be the way it would be done.
The flow would be through the Secretary of Defense, obviously,
Well,
too.
well, the Secretary of Defense was under attack in the Pentagon.
He was evacuating, yes, sir.
Now, in terms of anything you know today, looking backwards, including all of the after-action reports and various studies which I'm sure have been conducted internally, and I'm sure which we will wish to review, can you not tell us whether there was any effort made to contact the President to seek authority in dealing with what appeared to be a coordinated attack?
I don't have knowledge at this time to make a comment on that, sir.
I don't have knowledge of that. Our actions were to try to get aircraft in position to intercept if necessary.
Now, just going back, because now I'm confused by, on the one hand, your statement that the closing of the airspace over Washington provided de facto authority to take whatever measures were necessary to deal with hostile aircraft, and your statement that we probably would not have shot down 77 if we had arrived in time.
Airspace had not been shut down over Washington, D.C. at that time.
What time was that? Is that on the timeline?
I believe it is. I believe it was reported by Secretary Mineta, the timeline that occurred.
It's not on your timeline.
No, sir, it's not.
What do you know what time that was?
Sir, the only thing I've seen is we have a copy of provided by General Worley of an Andrews Tower transmission that announced to all aviation traffic that the Class B airspace was closed, and that air traffic that did not cooperate would be shot down.
What the time was that, Colonel Scott?
Sir, we'd have to go to the tower logs. We can get that for you. The tower log will show us what time that transmission was made, but I don't know what time it was made.
And on whose order was that directive given, that any plane in this sector would be shot down?
Unknown to me, sir.
Unknown, that's right, because you know what? They probably didn't get the order. And they didn't want the order. It's one thing to shoot down a plane full of civilians, but also at the same time, if you want the attacks to be successful, they have to be crashing where their intended targets are. That's if we're playing conspiracy here, right? But, is it out of the, realms of, is it too insane to think like that? No. I mean, look at the benefits of the attacks themselves. I mean, Secretary of Defense made millions of dollars, and the Vice President, Dick Cheney's, through his Halliburton contracts, was awarded many millions. And God knows how many contractors from the private military industrial complex, Boeing and Raytheon and Johnson & Johnson and L3 Technologies and other firms probably made in the billions. Regarding the war in Iraq, Afghanistan, later on, Syria and Libya, and, drone strikes in North Africa and Pakistan. So there you have it. I mean, NORAD wasn't very forthcoming, but at the same time, was it intentional? Did they have all the information? Did they not? We still have all the answers. We have more questions than answers. And this is the reason why the commission failed in that regards, because they didn't have everything. It's not that, hey, the entire, that's the Richard Gage, that's the Alex Jones, the real simple. Don't watch this. Don't read this because it's all a fake. It's all a flim flam because these people are mentally lazy. They're inept. They're lazy. They don't want to do real research. They want their beliefs to be straightforward. Hey, listen to us, follow us, give us money on our Patreon. We'll tell you everything about 9/11. Don't worry about it. We'll do the thinking for you. And so many people in the truth movement, they tend to do this because they don't want to pour through, thousands of documents, files, and go through, hours of research regarding, NORAD's testimony and transcripts themselves. There's so much to read, but that's what an investigator really does, an honest one anyway. All right. So guys, thank you very much to watch the video and see you in the next one. Take care.